My name is Sandy Adamitis, the social media director for the Page International Screenwriting Awards, and your host for the Writers Hangout, a podcast that celebrates the many stages of writing, from inspiration to the first draft, revising, getting a project made, and everything in between. We'll talk to the best and the brightest in the entertainment industry and create a space where you can hang out, learn from the pros, and have fun. Hey, writers, it's Sandy. I'm coming to you from Studio City, the crown jewel of the San Fernando Valley, and where recently Ventura Boulevard, which runs straight through the center of town, was recently named the most passive-aggressive road in America. My take: get out of the way. If I'm on Ventura and trying to make a left onto Coldwater and I'm cars back, I will have to sit through 4 traffic signals, even with a left arrow, before I get onto Coldwater. I cut my teeth on the 101 to the 405 exchange. You will not cut in front of me pretending you didn't mean to take the 101 North Lane. Can I cut in front of you, Sandy? But I will let you cut in front of me if you point, wave, or smile. Boy, do we have a great show for you today. My guest is Vicky Hart, daughter of Stan Hart, who wrote along with Larry Siegel on the Carol Burnett Show, for which they won multiple Emmys. His other writing credits include movies, Move, and Eat and Run, and on TV, besides the Carol Burnett Show, he wrote for Love American Style, Oh Nurse, The Hal Linden Show, and The Wonderful World of Disney, and so much more, which we'll get into a little bit about Vicky. First, it's Dr. Victoria Hart. She earned her D.M.A. in vocal performance at UCSB. No pressure, Sandy. Vicky is a seasoned performer who has channeled her experience into teaching and has appeared in leading roles with opera companies around the country. In recent seasons, she has sung with the Knoxville Opera, Sacramento Opera, Fresno Opera, Greensboro Opera, Opera Santa Barbara, Eugene Opera, Lyric Opera of Kansas City, Long Beach Opera, and Rimrock Opera. I had the best time talking with Vicky, and I'm so happy and proud to be sharing this snapshot of an extraordinary and special time in Hollywood's history. Let's start the show. Vicky Hart, thank you so much for joining us on the Writers Hangout.
Oh, it's so my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Before we get started, would you like to play a very quick round of Would You Rather?
Sure, whatever you offer, I'm up for.
Would you rather get a tattoo of the last book you read or the last movie you saw?
The last movie I saw.
And what would you have to get your tattoo of?
I rewatched Conclave recently, so it would be Roman at least.
Would you rather have universal respect or unlimited power?
Universal respect.
Would you rather be able to converse with animals or speak every language?
Converse with animals, like Dr. Dolittle.
Would you rather hop everywhere or skip everywhere?
Skip.
Would you rather spend a week in the forest or a night in a real haunted house?
A week in the forest, please.
Would you rather walk to work in heels or drive to work in reverse?
Oh, wow, that's hard. It's like, do I do damage to myself or to others? So I guess I'll take the heels.
Would you rather steam out of your ears like a train every time you're mad or bark like a dog when you're excited?
Barking like a dog. That's kind of fun.
Would you rather be stranded on a desert island with somebody who won't stop talking about the television series The Flying Nun, or be alone?
Alone, thank you.
Would you rather win $10,000 or your best friend win $100,000?
Oh, my best friend win $100,000.
Last one. Would you rather be the funniest person in the room or the smartest person in the room?
The smartest person in the room.
Thank you so much for playing that with us. Vicky, we
Yes.
met about a year ago, right?
Yes.
Yes, we were at your lovely daughter Amanda's, one of her bridal showers.
Yes. It was the Darlene's girlfriends got invited. So,
And Darlene Chan is one of my best friends, and she is mentioned so many times on this podcast because she's great at helping me get guests.
aw.
But I think it was about the middle of the get together when I learned who your father was, Stan Hart.
Yes.
And I think I practically jumped over the table to get you to come on the podcast.
You were so cute. And it was kind of a rather obscure reference that brought it all together. Do you recall?
Oh, no, I don't remember. What was it?
You said something about a friend of yours who was like really into Hal Linden or something. And I have
Oh,
no idea recollection of how that came up. But then I said, well, my dad wrote his special, The Hal Linden Show. And then it was like, beep, beep, beep.
yes, the lights went off in my head. And your dad was just writing during just that amazing, wonderful variety hour time and just
Yes.
in a time in Hollywood that I am fascinated about.
Mm.
Now, your dad, Stanley Hart, was a comedy writer who wrote scripts for TV shows as well as for film and theater between 1962 and 2000. He was
Yes.
born in 1928
Yes.
when Hoover was president, and I looked it up literally when sliced bread was first invented, which I thought
That's
was
so funny.
adorable.
That is
And
adorable.
he studied at Stuyvesant High School and
Stuyvesant.
Stuyvesant. Could you tell I'm not from New York?
It's perfectly fine.
But I'm from Connecticut, so
Good.
we're close.
Hmm.
Now, he spent his higher education at City College of New York and Columbia University. What did
Yes.
your dad go to school for?
He went to college. You know, it was interesting. He was a little too young to be in World War II because he was born in 28. But of course, he was also born a year before the Depression. And so these factors really figured into his life. He had to work during high school to make money. And so when he went to college, the first school was for business. He used that business knowledge in his life, but that's not who he was. Maybe his parents thought it was a good idea, but he was always interested in sports and in writing. And he acted in schools and he also loved movies. As you were saying, he grew up on the Upper West Side, Washington Heights, during that time where, you know, the people who were going to create 20th century comedy were all living there. You know, it
Yes.
was that community of a lot of Jewish kids, either the children of or the grandchildren of immigrants. And my dad was among them. I mean, he knew Neil Simon. Neil Simon was a little older, so my dad was good friends with Danny Simon just on the playground. He told me about his youth. Of course, there wasn't a lot of money. So his summers, what he would do, he would go to the park. He played baseball and sports all day because he loved that. And then he would come home, have lunch. His mother would give him a quarter, and that quarter would take him to the movie theaters, which was the only air conditioning available, was in movie theaters, where he would, for a quarter, he would see a double bill, a newsreel, he'd get a hot dog, and he'd get a drink.
Oh, what a wonderful childhood.
Yep. And he told me within walking distance was apparently 12 movie theaters at that time, all showing double bills with extras, and they changed programs. They had 2 separate programs per week. So he just
Wow.
lived in the movies as a young kid.
Wonderful. Did he know he wanted to write when he was younger?
Yes, actually, what he told me was that I think towards the end of high school, he was interested in being a sports writer. I don't know when this happened. He did play some semi-pro ball on the lower end, but he said he was a pitcher, but he got bursitis and he was a slow runner. So that was the end of that. But he was interested in doing that. That's where he started, yeah, in his idea. And then he went to City College. And then, oddly, he went to Columbia University and has got his master's in Elizabethan literature.
That is impressive.
Yes. And then later in life, this will tell you a lot about my dad. He had it framed and he hung it over the toilet in the bathroom.
That is perfect.
Yep.
Absolutely perfect. Now, we're going to jump to when your dad started working.
Yes.
And in 1962, your dad started at, I just can't believe I even know someone who is even tangentially associated with Mad Magazine.
Yes.
Now, 1962, he starts at Mad Magazine,
Right.
and he remained a long-running contributor for 3 decades. So
I think more. I think 40 years.
Wow.
I think 40 years, yeah.
So obviously, he loved writing for Mad.
Yes, he did.
Now, I loved when I was a kid the film parodies.
Mm-hmm.
What can you just talk about them a little, and what are some of them that he did?
You know, that he loved that, doing the film parodies. That was his specialty, though he did other things and he wrote some of the Mad book. I can't really share too much about it because he started writing for Mad a couple of years before I started learning how to read. I remember him being very annoyed with me because I loved the Spy versus Spy little marginalia because it was the only thing that I didn't have to read for. And he got very annoyed with me for that. I was like, I can't read.
Is your house filled with Mad magazines?
We had a stack of them. We sure did. Absolutely. I think eventually Dad had them bound.
Where is that?
I think my stepmother may have it.
Oh, man. And we'll get back to the ones that he did, but I don't think we weren't allowed to buy it, but my cousins, Gary and David, were older. So after David read it, after Gary read it, then I got it.
Oh, good.
And I love the film parody so much. Can you name a couple of them?
Actually, I don't know specifically which ones he did. For me, it was like, that's just what he did.
That's in my research, and this could be wrong because research, especially with AI, is a little wonky right now. Mm-hmm. But what I read is that he did The Sound of Music. And I can see that image of Julie Andrews, and I can see the striped apron that they put on her. The Graduate,
very likely.
Midnight Cowboy, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yes.
Oh, he did Grease.
It's very possible.
Dances with Wolves, Sister Act, The Green Mile. It just went on and on.
He didn't talk about, I'm working on this movie. He approached it so much just like a job. When he wasn't working at a studio or someplace, he would wake up early. He would have his breakfast. He'd go into this is when he was more established. He'd go into his office. He'd come out for lunch. He'd take a walk. He'd go out for lunch, come back. He'd work until 4:30 or 5. And he just did it every day.
And back in the day, he probably had to go to the theater, or maybe they sent him tapes. Do you remember anything like that? Like getting VHS?
It was a lot of this was before VHS. So he had to go to the movies.
And
take notes.
Yes. You really have to have a great memory to go to the movies and not be able to rewind and go back, forth, because what I remember, you couldn't do a whole 2-hour movie in those panels, but they always picked the popular spots that people were chatting about around the water.
Right. My dad had a very sensitive BS meter, and he may have always had it, but that would flare up at BS. And I think he got it when he was in college, because when he went to college as a young man, of course, so we're talking 18, 19 till whenever, he went to college with all those GIs coming back from war. And I remember my dad shared with me that if they didn't like what the professor had to say, they would just stand up and just let the professor have it, expletives and everything. I mean, they would just go off. And my dad kind of admired it, rightly or wrongly, he did.
I think that's amazing. I love that snapshot. I've never heard that. I don't even think Ken Burns knows that. That's amazing. I could just see them just standing up and just lighting their cigarette, just going, you can't BS me. I've been in war. Did your dad hear from anybody that liked the parodies of his movies?
It's very likely, but like I said, he approached it just like his work. I'm sure he enjoyed his work, and I'm sure he loved thinking about these things and coming up with ways to skewer things that he thought were ridiculous. But we didn't talk much about that. He liked to talk about things like history and plays. He took me to my first Shakespeare play, but also the guy liked a scatological joke more than anybody. So he was like operating on Shakespearean levels and poopy jokes simultaneously.
We kind of mentioned it. You touched on this, that your dad had an office. Was the office out of bounds for you? Could you go in there? What's it like having a dad who's home?
It was fine because I was mostly in school and I could go in there. It was not out of bounds by any means. It looked very much like a traditional office. This is when we were in California. He had one of those new IBM typewriters with the ball in it. The thing weighed about 45 pounds or 60 pounds. It sounded like an airline taking off. It was like, he didn't really make a thing of it. And when he was working on, I don't remember which movie, and then he would go to the studio. And he would go there, and it was like a 9-to-5 job there. And I remember he told me that, which movie was it? It was Move, the movie Move. And he was brought in as a script doctor. And so he was there for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And he was driving up to the studio, and the guy at the front, the guard said, "Hello, Mr. Hart." He knew who he was. And so then his contract was over, and he realized he'd forgotten something at his office. So he drove to the studio. Exact same guard who had greeted him by name for 8 weeks said, "Who are you?" And he's like, "You know me." And he's, "I don't have you on the list." And my dad had to beg and plead and was finally allowed to get his stuff. But it was like, "Your contract's over. We don't know you. You're a stranger to us."
There is no lie detected in that story, Vicky. Those studio guards are so tough. Whenever I take somebody on a studio tour, you walk around or anything that's visiting, I'm always like, "Have your license out. Have your license out. What is that exactly on your license? Because otherwise, if you don't tell me your middle name, they won't let us in."
Some things never change.
I read that the Mad magazine writers were called the usual gang of idiots.
Yes.
Now, I don't think that was pejorative.
No.
Did you know that? And did your dad like that title?
Oh, I think he loved that title. And he loved the tenor of Mad magazine, which was poking fun at everything and, not taking anything seriously. He loved that. The guys all knew each other, and the publisher was Bill Gaines, and he was quite eccentric. And one of the things he did is that once a year, he would take all the writers and all the artists, all the guys, on a trip somewhere. He'd take them to France. He'd take them to South America. No wives. No, he did this. And because he was like a gourmet, so they all went. Actually, this leans into the Mad Show, because he was writing for Mad. And also another writer, Larry Siegel, was writing. I don't know if they wrote together before then, but somehow, and I don't recall how, they were both selected to do this off-Broadway show. So a Mad trip was coming up, and it was, I don't know, in Miami or somewhere like this. And so all the guys were on the beach and doing whatever. And Dad and Larry shut themselves up in the hotel room and basically in a week wrote the show.
Say that again? In 1 week, they wrote the whole show?
Pretty much. They just didn't go out. I mean, I guess they had dinner.
So while everybody else was having cocktails on the beach and picking up, what would we call women back in those days? Chicks?
Yes.
And picking up chicks on the beach. And they were in the room writing.
Yes.
I'm so proud of him. That is why he was the head writer at the Carol Burnett Show and not a staff writer.
Yeah, he and Larry. Yeah.
Now, when you say the Mad Show, what was the Mad Show?
Oh, the Mad Show, it premiered when I was 6, but I remember the show very well. It was a review based on the kind of the attitudes of Mad Magazine, and Larry and Dad wrote the skits. Some of the music, actually a very famous song was written by Stephen Sondheim, the girl from Tacarima, La Tumba del Fuego, Santa Maria Flacatega, Flacon de Sol Cruz, or it's called The Girl From. And then Mary Rogers, the daughter of Richard Rogers, wrote the music. And it was a hit. It ran for 2 years. At that time, it was the longest running off-Broadway show.
Oh my gosh.
Hilarious. If you can get the soundtrack, the music is brilliant. It's so funny. You don't have to know the skits. It's just so funny. And at one point, one of the actors got sick. It was a cast of, I think, 3 men, 2 women, including Joanne Worley and Linda Lavin. One of the men got sick. And then, I mean, this is where my dad was a tall, handsome man, had a wonderful singing voice. And talk about a great memory. Without rehearsal, he stepped on stage and did the part for 2 weeks. All the lines, singing all the songs, knowing all the blocking, because he'd been in the theater when they were doing it, and I got to see him.
Oh, and you got to see him.
Yes.
That takes a lot of guts. The first time to step out there, it's scary when you know everything and you've rehearsed it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about some scandalous stories.
Well, not scandalous in that way.
Oh, in the fun way.
The one, it's not a scandal, but it's a great story. I think this might have been the Miami trip. I'm not sure. Sergio Aragones, who I guess wrote Spy versus Spy. I think it was his mom. I think they had been Cuban and she was living in Miami. And she decided to make dinner or lunch for everyone one night. And so there was like a big buffet thing and she cooked everything. And so my dad said he went and everything looked very delicious, except one dish he felt was a little suspicious. So he avoided that. Unfortunately, everybody else got food poisoning. I think maybe they were in Mexico. Maybe it was Mexico. Yes. So they all got food poisoning. And so then they all had to, the next day, get on a bus and go to wherever else they were going. Everyone's just so miserable. It's so horrible. And so they finally stopped someplace. And my dad wasn't sick. He was hungry. And there was like a little food stand there. He got something. So they're all back in the bus. And he was like the last to get on. And somebody said, Stanley, what do you got there? He said, I have a goat taco. And everybody went, whoa! They run out of the bus just to hurl their guts out. So those are the kinds of stories I heard.
Your dad worked with the famous Saul Bass, the legendary graphic designer. Yes. Can you just talk about that?
Oh, sure. So if anybody Googles Saul Bass, you'll see just tons of stuff. Fantastic graphic designer. You all might remember, your listeners might remember the AT&T globe with the blue and white kind of stripes.
Definitely.
He designed that. And he also was, I think, director of photography or something for Psycho. And he also was, I think it was the movie Grand Prix where they're doing the Le Mans, the stories about that car race.
Steve McQueen.
Yes, Steve McQueen. I don't remember what the name of it is, but the person who directs all the crowd scenes and such.
Oh, I would say the AD does that?
Something like that. So he told us a wonderful story that he was directing something and it was just this impossible situation. And he was in one of those cars where they're driving him around and he's like, let me go to the top of that hill and take a look. And they drive him up the top of the hill. He puts his head in his hands and goes, oh my God, what am I going to do? Pulls himself together and they go out again. So, yeah.
For our young writers out there, Steve McQueen, the movie actor, not the director that they kind of know nowadays, he wanted to film Le Mans. And it's like 24 hours and they're just race cars.
Yes.
Going around and around, and it's not a neat little track.
No.
The people are just separated by hay bales, and there was no script.
Oh my God. I never saw the film, so I just know this.
No script. And there's just a lot of vroom, vroom, vroom. Saul also did movie posters. Yes. I think he did Psycho, like you just said.
Yes.
And I can't think of any others top of my head, but I'll put it in the show notes.
Yes.
Now, hey, how did your parents meet? And let's talk about your mom a little bit.
Oh, that's so nice.
Stan Hart.
Yes.
So how did they meet and what was your mom like?
They met actually, I think, one of those resorts like in Dirty Dancing, except I don't think they did any Dirty Dancing because in the summer, where did nice Jewish kids meet other nice Jewish kids?
Catskills.
Yeah, in the Catskills. And neither family was ultra religious. So my mom was at some place with her cousin, and my dad was apparently at the same place with a friend of his. And I don't know how they met up, but I do recall the story of they decided to sit at a table somewhere and have dinner. And dad was sitting across from mom's cousin, and Stewie was sitting across from mom. And about halfway through, they switched. And my mom said to her cousin, she told me, if he asked me to marry him tonight, I would.
I love that so much. That is so sweet. About 6 months ago at the museum off the 405, and I'm not talking about the Getty.
The Sturball?
I was at Skirball looking at the Diane von Furstenberg, and I
Mm.
went by. They were just putting it up, but I guess there was a Catskill exhibit, and I guess
Oh,
there's going to be a TV series about that time.
oh, how wonderful. Oh, how
Yes, you
wonderful.
will really enjoy it, I think. And what
Yeah.
was your mom like?
Oh, she was such a sweet woman, smart, very interested in the arts. She had wanted to be an actress and she played piano beautifully. She had a beautiful voice, and that was all very well and good when she was younger. But when she got to be a very voluptuous looking young lady, her parents said no.
Oh, they wanted her safe?
They were just prudes.
They were
They
just
were,
prudes.
yep. And I think she got a summer stock job, and they said no, you can't go.
Oh my goodness. I can't imagine being teen on the East Coast, being offered a summer stock job. I mean,
Yeah.
that was it. That was what would you say, the runway to Broadway?
It was a professional gig. You were on your way. And so they said no.
Oh,
And so she
do you,
went Vassar.
do you think your mom resented that, or she ended up being, I still got to live a good life?
Well, she found joy where she could. I think that damaged her. Yeah. And as I think
Oh,
in other ways, a lot of women who suffered, not so much in my mother's case, but that Rosie the Riveter syndrome, all the women are working through the war, and then they come back and it's like, sorry, the boys are home. You have to wear crinoline and pearls and vacuum. Out of the workplace you go.
there was no, hey, we'll try to find a different space for
Uh-uh.
you. It was just get out.
The boys needed the jobs and the country needed the babies. And there it
Yes.
was. She so supported my dad in his career. In fact, I'll never forget. So this is after the Mad Show. My parents had just bought a house in Connecticut. We had been there 6 weeks, and Dad got an offer to work for a 6-week replacement on the Flip Wilson show in LA. That's all. That was his entire contract. And I'll never forget, I'll remember this my whole life. My mom sat us down in the living room, my brother and I, and she looked at us and said, we're going to Los Angeles and we're not coming back.
Oh,
She knew that's where his future was.
I love your mom.
Yeah.
I loved her honesty. I loved the independence when she told you that and her foresight.
And you know what? I never shared it to my dad until much later. Actually, after she passed away, I told him, and he said, I never knew that. And he paused. He goes, she was always so much braver than I was.
That just really touches your heart. It's the woman behind the man.
Yes,
And
indeed.
at least she got to laugh a lot.
Oh, she did. And she was a great mom, and she was just a fabulous lady. She came from a family. Her father had 3 brothers. I think it was 4 brothers altogether. And they founded Topps Chewing Gum, Bazooka
Yeah,
Bubble Gum.
I was just going to say, your mom has a amazing background with the Tops chewing gum. Now,
Yes.
your family founded the Tops chewing gum,
Yes.
and your grandfather, listen to this, listeners, listen to this, writers. Your grandfather, Vicky's grandfather, invented baseball cards.
Yes.
Drop the mic.
Yes.
That is just amazing. And then your dad wrote the text.
Yes, for a lot of them, because he loved baseball.
Just your dad just goes, I can fit in here. I can fit in here. And
Oh,
listeners,
absolutely.
writers, if there's anything that take away from this episode is just see what you're good at. Make sure you do that, but have an education and be interested
Yeah.
in other things. Can you talk about that side of the family, the Tops?
Absolutely. My grandfather, first generation American, he was born in the late 1890s, and his brothers from Kiev. And so he had a 5th grade education, he and his brothers, and they started working. And I don't know what they did first, but eventually they put together enough to open a gas station. And he was like, okay, we're going to do this gimmick. We're going to give everybody a newspaper, the men in the morning, and give them a cup of coffee and do their windows. And then they moved on to get into the cigar business, and they were importing the leaves. But then they realized that the middlemen, which they were, being squeezed out, and they decided to go in, I don't know why, into the gum business. And just a little sidebar, I think your listeners will be amazed by this. The reason why my grandfather invented baseball cards was originally to sell gum. Now, anybody who's eaten the gum in a packet of baseball cards would not believe that because it tastes terrible.
I still have some on my back tooth from the early days. It was cardboard. It
It
was
was,
cardboard.
yeah, but that was the original reason they wanted to sell more gum, and they thought this was the way to do it. Dad, I think he started working there, of course, only after he married Mom. So, he married the daughter and then had the boss. But he also did business stuff for them. He also did creative stuff for them. He told me a story. This is in like the mid 60s. They sent him to England to look for licensing for cards and stuff. And so he met with some guy. He goes, I have this group. I don't know what they're going to be, but you can have them licensed for $7,000. And it was the Beatles.
No, sir.
Yes.
No, sir.
He licensed Beatle cards for $7,000
Oh.
for Topps chewing gum.
Are you on a throne right now of gold?
No.
Oh.
But he eventually did well. Yes, he did. But that was just his job.
Do you have any Beatles baseball cards?
Oh, golly, no. They were nothing. Never thought to collect them. But for me, what's more precious is the memory, to be honest with you, rather than the item.
Absolutely.
So, to your point, if I may say about speaking to your writer listeners, I mean, my dad just had this incredible creativity. So he created Big Daddy, he created Gold Rush, he created Wacky Packs, he created ring pops, push pops. He would just have an idea like, what if we put a candy on a ring and kids could wear it and suck on it?
Wow. And for all kids at raves, they thank you because those ring pops keep them going, keep them alive. They're electric lights. Now, he also, and I love this, I love that he probably wrote because I read every single one that I could get my hands on, Bazooka Joe.
Yes. He wrote a lot of the Bazooka Joe comics. Indeed, he did.
Oh, how
And
amazing.
I have a story about that blew my dad away when he heard it, because talk about, we as artists, we never know who we touch. We might think we're just throwing something out into the universe. So I was doing an opera in Santa Barbara, and it was a Gilbert Sullivan thing. And there was some of the local people would be doing the chorus and being the pirates and all this. So it was like backstage during a show. We were doing a show for the kids. The director had asked everybody in the cast to write something about themselves that the kids would find interesting. So I don't think they'd find anything that interesting about me, but I said, my dad wrote the Bazooka Joe comics. Okay, fine. So I'm backstage, and here comes this big pirate who looks like he's going to hurt you. Yeah. He comes up and he grabs my hands and he says, did your father really write the Bazooka Joe comics? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, would you thank him for me? I'm like, okay. Oh. He goes, no, you don't understand. Where I grew up in New Jersey, it was a slum. We had rats in the apartment. I mean, he said, I can't even describe to you. And I would take the Bazooka Joe comics and paste them on my wall. I can't tell you how that helped me get through. Tell your dad thank you. And when I told my dad, he goes, what?
That is so sweet. Now, you had mentioned that your family went from the East Coast to Los Angeles via the Flip Wilson show. Yes. What part of town did you move to?
Well, we were originally, for a couple of years, we were in Sherman Oaks. That was very lovely, nice place. But that was a bit of a tough time because after the Flip Wilson show, my dad was trying to get work. He was working on screenplays. He did option a screenplay to, I think, Alan Pakula, but it never got made. And that was a really rough year for my dad because there was the money, but his career wasn't moving along. And I remember it being a really, really tough year for him. Fortunately, not financially, so we weren't materially affected. But then actually through Larry Siegel, they got the Carol Burnett Show. I said, I want to work with my partner, Stan, and then that happened.
And we're going to get to the Carol Burnett Show. First, I want to know what schools you went to.
I started at Dixie Canyon Elementary, and then I went to Sherman Oaks Elementary, and then we moved south of Wilshire Boulevard to Beverly Hills. And I spent the rest of my school years in Beverly Hills.
Oh, that's so cool. What part of Beverly Hills?
South Rodeo Drive, which was very nicely upper middle class. It wasn't crazy.
Oh, are we talking flats?
Yes.
For our writers out there, Beverly Hills has the flats and the hills, and the town's in the middle. I think that's where I discovered four-way stops when I first came to
Yes,
town.
on every bleeping corner.
Yes. Now, I'm going to mention some of the shows your dad worked on, and
Hmm.
I would just love to hear any memories.
Sure.
Now, he did Wonder Woman, but it
Hmm.
was the pilot that didn't air. I think it was called Who's Afraid of Diana Prince? 67. Do you remember anything about that one?
Well, no. Like I said, he wouldn't have talked about it.
Wouldn't have talked about it.
Yeah.
Okay. This one is just, I love Oh Nurse. And it's got an exclamation point. So it's Oh Nurse. And if that is not a 70s sitcom title, I don't know what is.
I remember the title, but again, also you have to remember I was 8 years old.
Yep. And now the Hal Linden Special.
Yes, that I do remember a little more about because I was a little older. And also, my dad, from his childhood and everything, he had a profound love affair with New York City, what it meant to him, the history of the city. And also, he was very much into that kind of Frank Capra sort of idealism because he got that in the movies and also the glamour of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. So, in the Hal Linden specials, if I recall correctly, they let him do a whole thing on New York City and put Hal Linden there, and he set the whole thing there. I remember that he had one little item in the show where they had, in the recent past, changed Sixth Avenue to Avenue of the Americas. The bit was Hal Linden was asking people, what's the name of the street? And they're like, Sixth Avenue. And where's the Avenue of the Americas? Well, you're on Sixth Avenue. Very much into
Yeah.
loving New York.
They would give actors variety specials. And
Not necessarily willingly.
tell me.
When a person like Hal Linden would have a successful show and they want to continue more seasons, the star would say, well, I want a special. I want to do the dancing and the skits and the singing. These artists wanted to show that side of themselves.
There you go. And they had the power and they
Yep,
took it.
good for
There you
them.
go. Now, the Paul Lynde Show.
I love Paul Lynde. I still see snippets of him on the Hollywood squares and I just love him. He's so marvelous. Again, because of the time, we didn't have copies of these shows. It wasn't like having a DVD. I don't even think Betamax was available.
No, I don't think so.
So
No.
unfortunately, I don't have access unless I maybe went to the Television Museum in New York City. I don't have access to these videos. We just don't have them.
I looked up Oh Nurse,
Yeah.
Nurse,
Yeah.
and it is about the comic misadventures about a group of co-eds attending nursing school. Now, absolutely, I could see that selling in the room. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at the writers, and your dad was working with Treva Silverman.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God. I certainly know the name. Never knew that. Never knew that.
Writers, Treva was the woman allowed in the men's writing
Oh my
rooms
God.
for Mary Tyler Moore
Mhm.
and all those shows. She
Wow.
is legendary. And there
Yes.
again is Larry Siegel and Stan Hart. So I'm going to see if I can find that on tube because that actually looks adorable to me.
It
And
sounds like a great basis for a sitcom now.
exactly. I know. Yes, I agree. Now, they even gave, and now I understand, Gabe Kaplan show.
Yes.
So
I vaguely remember it because I knew who Gabe Kaplan was at the time. But if you asked me what the show was, I couldn't tell you.
he was the teacher in Welcome Back, Carter.
That's right. Well, I can only imagine he wanted it or his agent told him to want it because, I wouldn't think of Gabe Kaplan as a song and dance man either.
Now, Eat and Run. I think this is a family affair here going on. Eat and
Yeah,
Run.
it was a bit of a vanity project. So he wrote the script and he financed it. I think was he directing it? No, I don't think he directed it, but he was very much involved with it. And it was kind of this wacko comedy sci-fi thing. My own personal connection to it, I was actually, while they were filming it, I was out in Albuquerque studying out there for some unknown reason. That's my story. But my dad was saying that they had this one scene where they wanted a lonely street at night in New York City. And they wanted to have tumbleweeds going down the street. And he was just chatting with me like, well, we'll have to figure out how to make them. I'm like, no, I'm in Albuquerque. I'll just drive up the road and I'll get them. And I did. I mailed him 2 huge tumbleweeds in a big moving box.
Did you get a credit on the movie?
I think I did.
I looked at the trailer. They looked like they were having so much fun. And they were out in New York City, it looks like, just shooting on the streets everywhere.
Oh, yes. And they were like running from the Teamsters Union. In fact, at one point, when they're going on site, at one point, apparently the Teamsters found them and parked a van on their cables of their audio and video equipment. And they got their gaffers and all the guys that were working on them to lift the trucks so they could move the cables.
That is such a movie story.
The glamour.
We're going to get around it. Yes. Absolutely. Now, we're going to talk about the Carol Burnett Show. Legendary, and it has some of the most wonderful sketches and songs. Yes. And I think the young kids out there do know about it because I see Carol Burnett clips on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes.
All day long.
Yes.
What do you remember?
Oh, quite a bit because I was older. I know that Dad respected Carol tremendously. He really respected her as a comedian and as an artist. And he really enjoyed writing for that show. And he and Larry, as writers and then as head writers for a couple of years, they really did a lot of the kind of movie musical things, these big productions, because they had not only themselves who loved the genre, loved, gently spoofing it, but they also had the great Ken and Mitzi Welsh, the songwriting team, the musical team, who are just spectacular and have done work with Barry Manilow and back in the day, Barbra Streisand. I mean, just so talented. And they also had the fabulous costumer, Bob Mackey. So how can you not do big production numbers when you had that group? And Carol, who was fantastic. And she would run a calisthenics hour for anyone on staff before the workday started. She led calisthenics.
Jane Fonda, move aside.
And she was very serious about her comedy. Actually, in the later episodes, after my dad left, she would break a little more often. She didn't want to ever break if she could in a scene. And she was just great. It was a really wonderful time for him. And he got to be very, very creative in a way that he liked.
Writers out there, if you want to know how to build a comedy scene, go watch Carol Burnett, because you're laughing in the beginning and you're laughing harder in the middle and you can't believe you're still laughing at the end.
Also, there's the timing thing. My dad really had a great sense of timing and the detail that made something funny. I forget which, maybe it was a spoof of the Dolly Sisters, the movie The Dolly Sisters, old movie called The Doily Sisters. And Carol's playing the lead person and Harvey is her boyfriend or something, and she's sick and she's dying. And so the doctor says to Harvey, she only has 3 minutes to live. He's pulling himself together and he goes up to her, my darling, what can I get you? She says, well, I'd really like a 4-minute egg. And
I'm sorry. Oh, that's such a raspy laugh.
Yeah.
I'm laughing still.
He wrote the shows for Radio City Music Hall when it reopened in the 80s. They did a whole kind of spectacular. He did a New York spectacular because that's what he loved. But I remember him telling me there was one line that wasn't getting a laugh. And he went and he listened to the performance. He's like, this should get a laugh. And he went up to the actor. He said, I forgot what the line was. He said, you're saying, you have to say the in this line. And it got a laugh.
Brilliant. And you're born with that.
Well, it's craft also. It's craft.
Yes, you can learn the craft. Absolutely, you can learn the craft.
Yes.
But there is this innate ability to know the timing.
Apropos that, my dad, for quite a number of years, he attended, you may know, Harvey Lembeck's comedy workshop. He was very good friends with Harvey Lembeck and the family. And he went and he would do the improv. John Ritter was in it, and I think Robin Williams was there. Dad would get on stage with them. And I remember Harvey Lembeck was so great. They had to be funny, but he insists they be real. And Harvey would yell at them in the middle of the scene. He goes, you're doing shtick. Don't do shtick.
Makes so much sense now. He comes from an improv background. Yep. And Harvey Lembeck is the Phil Silver Show.
Blanket bingo.
Yes.
On the motorcycle.
Eric Von Zipper.
Oh my God. Amazing. Yes. I'm very lucky Dad took me several times, and it was just amazing how people can be up there taking prompts, making stuff up, and be hilarious. I'm like, ow.
Yep. Did you get to go see the Carol Burnett Show? Were you in the
Yes.
audience?
Oh, a number of times. Yes, it was wonderful.
Did that shoot at CBS?
Yes, it did. It shot at CBS, and they shot the dress and they shot the regular performance. In case something happened, they'd have a backup tape.
So would you get out of school and your mom would pick you up and you'd drive down Beverly?
Probably. I don't know what time they started. They could have started at 4 and done a 4 o'clock and a 7 o'clock or something. I don't really recall.
I wanted your life growing up. That's why I literally think of these things like, oh, were you excited all day through school and you couldn't wait to get out because you knew you were going to go around and be with the funny people?
I certainly was excited when he got it because I knew it was a big deal. We watched it every week, and that was a big deal. And does Dad have one of the scenes? Are they his? One of the parts of the show, are they his? So certainly there was great excitement about it. But the details, I was in school, I was doing girl things. I should also say, by the way, Dad loved Harvey. He thought he was hilarious. He thought he had more talent than he could use on that show. Of course, he did like Blazing Saddles and stuff, and then you could really see his genius. But he respected Harvey tremendously.
Are the wagons that are around the trailers, are those Lyle Wagner's trailers? Is that his company?
I have no idea. I've
I've
never
been told
heard
that those trailers are his, but I don't know if somebody was just teasing me with that.
Well, I don't know, but I have a funny story. My dad didn't love Lyle Wagner because he understandably, he wanted to do more on the show, and he was just like the eye candy on the show, and he was kind of bugging my dad about it. I found it annoying. So I think one time he just walks up to Lyle and goes, Lyle, extra weight looks good on you.
OMG.
Dad could be sharp.
Lyle cut back. Did you get to ever interact with Carol?
Yes, I met her, and she was incredibly sweet and lovely. And I remember, oh my goodness, all these stories are coming back. It's lovely to have a chance to talk about them. My dad, when his parents came out to LA, he took his parents to the show, and they got backstage to meet Carol, and they were so happy. And then a few months later, a Life magazine story came out about Carol Burnett, and his parents were in a featured photo. They were like, how did you do it? And my dad was like, I didn't. I had nothing to do with it.
If your dad was not the favorite son, he was the favorite son. He got put in the will. What better thing than you could do for your parents to be in an article like that? Now, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I would think back in that day, after work, after the show, were people drinking? Did the writers go out? Comedy writers after shows love to go someplace. I wonder where they went, if they went or they went home.
They may have, but my dad wasn't a big drinker at all. And I think he just wanted to go home and watch sports. And he was in so many ways such a regular guy with also this kind of intellectual bent. So a weekend for Dad would be watching sports on TV and reading huge tomes of the American Revolution, and writing for the Carol Burnett Show.
An amazing mind any way you look at it.
Yes.
When I'm doing some research on your dad, I saw this on one of the boards. It could have been Facebook. Bill White, just a guy out there in the world, he said about your dad, his stuff not only got me interested in show tunes, he inspired me to read and watch the classic. Hart might well be responsible for the cultural education of 1,000 baby boomers.
Oh, that chokes me up. This guy, Phil White, he got my dad. He totally got him. I'm really choked up.
Vicky, what do you want the world to know about your father, Stanley Hart?
Oh, gosh. He was a complicated man in a lot of ways. We've talked about one side of him, but like all people, he had many sides. But he really, I'll just speak about him as my dad. Great. I was so lucky because we ended up liking a lot of the same things. So he would, anytime he was like, how about this? How about that? I was like, yes, yes, yes. At a time when we were both living in New York after I graduated from college, for a couple of years, he would get a subscription to the pianist at Carnegie Hall. We would once every month and have dinner at Fontana di Trevi and then cross the street to Carnegie. And it was just wonderful. But it's always, he adored classical music and everything, but always he had this funny twist about things. So we're doing one of those concerts. We had a lovely dinner. We actually had front row seats, and we opened the program, and it's all full of like really ultra modern avant-garde music, which my father hated. And I didn't, at that time, I really wasn't that open to it. And so we looked at the program, we looked at each other, and he said, shall we? And I said, let's. And we walked out of Carnegie Hall from the front row before the program started.
Oh,
everybody was looking at us, and we're like, we're out of here. Sorry, we're done.
The Harts are leaving the building.
But, you were speaking earlier of how you are born with it. And it is true. My father told me a story when he was in fourth grade. So, 1930 something. It was the old classrooms, and the kids had to stand up and read from the textbook. So they were doing a thing about Washington's inauguration after the revolution. So Dad gets up, he starts reading, and the text says, when Washington was inaugurated all around New York, many great balls were held. And of course, he started to giggle. And the teacher was like, Stanley, how dare you? He kicked him out of class. He couldn't help himself. His brain took a left turn, and that's where it went.
And thank goodness he didn't listen to his teacher, because we would have lost out on so much.
This has been so lovely. A chance to go down memory lane with you, really. It's just been so marvelous.
Vicky Hart, thank you so much for joining us on the Writers Hangout.
Totally my pleasure. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for the Writers Hangout. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Your positive feedback will help us keep the show going so we can continue bringing you more future episodes. Remember, keep writing. The world needs your stories. The Writers Hangout is sponsored by the Page International Screenwriting Awards, with executive producer Kristen Overn, Sandy Adamitis, and our music is composed by Ethan Stoller.
Alexa, you are gaslighting me.